Hi you guys! Today I want to talk to you about something really important, something that everybody goes through and everybody feels from time to time. Fear. Fear is a big deal. It can leave us completely frozen and unable to act. It can leave us with our knees shaking and our heart beating or feeling nauseous, or like worst case scenario moments are coming our way from left and right. It's easy to become swallowed up by fear. Sometimes it's legitimate, not very often, and most of the times the fear that we feel on a regular basis is not 100% valid. There's different types of fear, right? There's fear of falling off a building, or a fear of getting injured, or legitimate fear that can actually keep you safe. That's why we feel fear at times, to keep us safe. And then there's other types of fear that kind of creeps up on us. And most of it comes from our minds, we created ourselves, or it stems from maybe past experiences from when we were younger. And my biggest fear of my entire life has always been public speaking. Terrified. And this is kind of interesting because I teach yoga for a living, so basically it's public speaking is what I do for a living. I have no problem teaching yoga to 1,000 people. I'll get a little, butterflies just because I'm excited, but I don't get nervous. But the idea of public speaking, of preparing a speech or a talk and then standing up in front of a crowd and delivering that talk, just talking about it makes my heart beat in a very uncomfortable way. It's not something that I enjoy even the slightest. And if you've read my book, Yoga Girl, I have a chapter in there called Love Over Fear. And something that life has taught me is continuously the universe will throw you curveballs where you get the opportunity or the chance to move through fear and come out on the other side. And it's up to us how we choose to react, right? Whenever something comes your way, if it absolutely terrifies you, you can choose to run away, to look the other way and to escape and to decide, I'm not going to do this. Which usually means that you're going to stay put where you are, right? You're not going to evolve, you're not going to expand your horizons. You're going to stay within that comfort zone, which is fine, until it's not. And other times you're faced with a fear, you're faced with this feeling in your gut, like, wow, I don't know if I can do this, this is terrifying. And you take that step and you choose to move forward. There have no other word to describe it than liberation, freedom, really. So I'm going to tell you a little story. The reason I want to talk about this right now is that I just did a TED Talk, which for me is probably the biggest accomplishment of this entire year. And not because it's a huge deal or, TED, and this was a TEDx event. TED is a very recognized institution, and I'm really honored that I was invited. But there was 500 people in the audience. I've spoken in front of way more people than that before from a yoga mat. But this was a big accomplishment for me because it scares the living hell out of me. How this all started was last year when I just finished writing my book in Swedish, and I was busy translating the book to English for the American market. And I got a call, it was right before my Swedish book tour, I got a call from one of my agents saying that they found this amazing speaking event, this very inspirational speaking event with really inspiring people from all over the country, called For Good, and they would love for me to be a speaker talking about my book or about my path, how the book came to be, a 30-minute talk in 3 main cities in Sweden. And I immediately just froze up. No. I wouldn't even consider it right away. I said, no, thank you. Just don't come with these types of suggestions to me because I'm never going to do that, ever. That terrifies me. It's horrible. And then they said, oh, are you sure? Because we have a feeling you would do so well and it would be so good for the book and the publicity. And I just I didn't even think about it. I just flat out denied. No way. And then I hung up the phone. I turned back to my computer where I'm busy rewriting or translating the book for the American market. And the chapter that's on my computer is Love Over Fear. The sentence I was writing was, if it doesn't at least scare you a little, it's not worth doing. And here I was, telling the world to face their fears and to overcome, and I'm scared shitless to do this one thing that they just asked me to do. And I had that feeling, once in a while you get that feeling in your gut where, okay, this is the direction I need to move in. It doesn't, it's not a comfortable place, but it's where I need to go. So I called them back and I said, what the hell, I'll do it. I had a few months to prepare, so I said, okay, I'll just try to think of something and I'll figure it out. And then as this date drew closer and closer, I got more and more terrified, and not in a pleasant way, not in a way that I was excited to deliver the talk. I was just absolutely frozen with fear. I had nightmares. I would wake up sweating just from nightmares over this talk. And in the end, I had to tell them, I can't do it. Really, I'm nauseous every day just thinking about this thing that's coming in the future. And they gave me the suggestion that I could have a moderator on stage with me, so I could go out with a person. Instead of me being alone doing this speech, I would have a person there asking me questions, like a dialogue. And this was kind of the easy way out, like I'm realizing now. But it was an important first step, because I think if I didn't have that opportunity for that first time I was on stage, I might have chickened out. I might have canceled, because that's how terrified I was. So I do the first event. It was, 400 or something, 500 people maybe there. I go on stage and I'm there with the publicist from the publishing house where I published a book in Sweden. And she's asking me these questions, and I know already kind of what I want to talk about. So she ended up asking me 5 or 6 questions just to keep the dialogue going. But it was basically me on my own. And it was okay. I didn't feel great when I left. I felt like, I can't believe I had to do that. And I had to bring someone on stage with me. I felt like a child. But I did it. I took a step into this immensely uncomfortable place. And I did it. I didn't die, right? The second location we had, she came with me on stage, and I felt a little more comfortable because I already knew a little bit more what I wanted to say, and I'd done it once. So I said, you know what? Just ask me 1 or 2 questions. So that's what she did. She asked me 1, maybe 2 questions, and I just kept that more like a monologue flowing on my own. And then the third event came up, and it was in Stockholm. It was the biggest one of those 3 events. And I realized, okay, it's time for me to do this on my own. I took these baby steps up this ladder. It's time for me to do this on my own. So I told her I didn't need her on stage. And I spent, I think, the week before in absolute agony, complete agony, just nauseous, wanting to throw up. Like I had stomach pains, sweating, nightmares. It was awful, but I knew I'd committed. I was going to do this no matter what. I went out on stage. I did my speech. And it was in Swedish, which is also, funnily enough, I'm Swedish, but English is easier for me these days. So it was hard for me to convey what I wanted to convey in Swedish. And I felt afterwards, I did not feel good. I did it, I was there on my own. Everybody told me it was so great, and oh my God, you're so brave, and I loved your talk, and so real. I did not feel good afterwards. And I told my husband that I'm never doing this again, because the amount of anxiety I felt leading up to these events was so much greater than the gratification of actually having delivered my speech, right? If I would have left that stage feeling on top of the world, feeling like, a goddess, like I did it, I overcame, I'm a warrior, and that feeling would have been greater than the feeling of anxiety beforehand, I might have started to do this. This could have been something that I actually did more of. But that was not the case. I just felt horrible, right? So I just decided, no, okay, I took these steps, but it's just not for me, right? It's just not for me. And then fast forward a year, and I got invited to do a TED Talk in Luxembourg. And a TED Talk is something that, I've dreamed of doing, just the idea. I know I have a lot of ideas worth spreading, I know I have things to say, and I know there's people out there that want to listen, but it's been this future dream in my mind of, maybe in 10 years, I'll do a TED Talk when I'm this mature, older person with more wisdom, and when I've practiced this more, and, I've overcome this fear. I kept putting the idea of overcoming this fear in the future, over and over again. Like, now is not the time. I'll overcome it later. But if not now, when? That's the question. How long was I supposed to wait and live with this fear of public speaking? And in my line of work and all the opportunities that are presenting themselves to me right now, if I can't speak in front of people, I'm missing out on a lot of amazing things. And I turned many events down just because they wanted a speaker instead of a teacher. So I've been hiding behind my yoga mat now for years, and the time is up. So when they asked me to TED Luxembourg, I initially said yes, this is something that I could do. And in the moment I said I would do it, I just had these heart palpitations since I felt like I couldn't breathe. It was awful. And then I said, you know what? It's really far away, Luxembourg. It's really far away. And TED, they never cover your flights or anything like that. I said, it's going to be really expensive for me and my husband to fly all the way from Aruba to Luxembourg just for this one talk. So this was another easy way out, but I told myself, it's just logistically not possible. Like, it's too expensive. I can't do it. So I turned them down. And then I told Dennis, Dennis told me, I think you're just scared. Isn't this your fear talking? I said, no, this is my reason. We can't afford it. And I told him these words: if there's ever a closer TED event, somewhere closer to where we are, then I'll do it. Just the next time I get approached, if it's closer by, I'll do it. And he said, okay, whatever. The next morning, they called me from TEDx Aruba. TED Aruba inviting me to do a talk in my home country, right? Where I live on this island. I was out of excuses. I couldn't legitimately keep excusing myself anymore to do this. So I said yes. What was different about this time around is TED forces you to plan and prepare like crazy. And I'm not a planner. I never plan my yoga classes. I never prep for things like that, or whatever I'm presenting. I never think of it beforehand. I sit with whoever's there and I use that energy to create something out of that moment. And I think that's also a reason why I don't get nervous, because I don't have to think of delivering something perfectly. I just have to be myself and hold space for other people. But now with TED, they make you plan and prepare every single thing. So you have to write your entire talk. You have to hand it in for a review. You get coaching sessions with these amazing experts that all they do is public speaking. I had this whole entire process of planning for and preparing this talk over the past few weeks. And I've been practicing it at home. Practicing. And every time I delivered it, it was differently. But I realized that the more I would speak these words out loud, the clearer the message I wanted to convey became. The more I practiced it, I realized this is not that intimidating. It's not a matter of life or death, because I'm telling my own story. I'm telling something that I know is true, something I'm passionate about. It's basically just me being myself, holding space for other people to listen and form their own opinions. So it is kind of like teaching yoga, just with a lot of preparation. The days started coming closer, and I was really doing my best for the past 2 weeks to stay present in my daily life, but I've had this back of my head feeling every moment of every day that this is coming. TED is coming. Like TED is this monster who's coming for me. And I've just been trying to breathe my way through it. And every single day I have been practicing. And that's it. And it's just like our yoga practice. You know, it's hard in the beginning. The more you do it, the more comfortable you get with the idea of what it is that you're doing. If it's a down dog or a handstand or something different. And with this, it really was the more I spoke, the more comfortable I became speaking. That simple. So the day of the rehearsal arrived. They have an entire rehearsal where they go through the whole program the day before. I woke up feeling so terrified I couldn't breathe. I almost couldn't even do yoga, because I was just frozen with this fear. And I worked through it. I stretched my body the way I normally did. I had a breakfast and then went to the rehearsal. And I was so nervous for the rehearsals that Dennis told me afterwards that it was really, really clear how nervous you were. And I was rushing my way through this talk. When I finished, I had 2.5 minutes left. And I had 15 minutes allowed, and I had 2.5 minutes left. So I thought, wow, okay. I need to really get on stage and just relax and slow down and breathe and just really keep it at a normal pace. Like, that's it. If I can do that, I can do this, because I know my talk. I know what I want to say and how I want to deliver it. Went to bed, woke up the day of TED, felt really emotional. I did my practice and I cried in Shavasana just from the anticipation of this big thing. And it wasn't so much the people in the audience staring at me. You know, the fear wasn't really that I was going to mess up or fall off stage or blank out or anything like that. It was more of the idea that I'm doing something I'm so uncomfortable with. It's the idea of climbing this mountain that I've avoided for my entire life, really. That's the feeling that I had. The event starts, we had a lot of press, and I got to sit in the audience for the first half of the event and watch 6 amazing speakers. And for every speaker that came on stage, I felt more and more calm. And they were all so very different, and they delivered their talks completely different, but I just felt so calm for the first half. And then I got to go backstage, I had minor panic attacks, did a final run through of my talk, and I'm standing backstage, mic'd up, just completely terrified. I couldn't look anybody in the eye, I couldn't talk to anybody, I couldn't focus on anything else but just kind of putting one foot in front of the other and staying with my breath. Like, that was it. And they introduced me and I walked out on stage. I took a breath before I started talking, a deep breath. And then I delivered my first line. And after that, it was like flying. It went so well. I felt so comfortable, and I'm just telling this story that I know and that I've lived. People were listening attentively, everybody was present, everybody was there. And I just felt so 100% in the moment. All that fear went away. Because it's happening. You cannot stay present and feel fear at the same time, because fear lives in the mind. And as I start telling my third story, I had 3 stories in this talk, I start telling my third story. Normally when I look at the time, around this time, I have 8 or 9 minutes left. But I look at the time, I had 4 minutes to go. So I had become so relaxed on the stage that I was taking up too much time. And the cutoff time was 15 minutes, and they're really, really strict because it was a televised event. And I realized I'm not going to make it through my entire talk. I'm going to have to wing it completely. So I had to completely cut an entire piece of my talk out. And I think thanks to the fact that I was so in the moment and so present, I actually saved it. It was nothing like what I had practiced. It was nothing the way I had planned it. I had to just be in the moment and change the story and give it a completely different ending, but still conveying the same message that I wanted to convey from the beginning. And it worked. It worked. I could have freaked out or blanked out. I didn't, and I got off stage, and guess what? I felt like $1,000,000. I did. And now I have this feeling, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I want to do this again. I want to do this again. I want to talk. I can do it. I can deliver talks. I can do speech. I can do public speaking. It's okay. I can do it. And for me to be able to say that is just out of this world. This is a monumental step for me. And I know I've taken this burden off of my shoulders. I overcame fear, and I feel lighter as a human being, lighter, more liberated. So what I want to tell all of you is whatever it is that you're avoiding in life, because our fears, they're going to keep coming at us, right? That's how the universe works. The universe wants you to overcome your fears, to choose love over fear every day. And if we avoid it, it's going to keep coming our way over and over again until you have the courage to say yes. And guess what? You'll try. You might fail, like I did. I had 3 talks when I felt horrible and nothing worked. And with time, we learn the lesson we're supposed to learn. And then we fly. I hope this inspires you to go for something new. Get out of your comfort zone. Get out there. Face your fears. You'll be so happy that you did. Thank you so much for listening to this long story. I love you guys so much. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to put out new videos talking about different subjects every single week.